Welcome in everyone to episode 6 of Rivals and Rants, the Marvel Rivals Esports podcast. I'm Vodible. We got Hachi, the new captain of OG, Alfie from Luminosity Gaming, and Minty, the 3-time Ignite qualifier manager extraordinaire. We have a special episode here because we have a bit of a delay for Ignite. It was supposed to start tomorrow, but now it's starting next week. We'll talk all about that, but also a little bit of predictions for EMEA and Americas. The other regions, we'll leave those to the experts for those specifically. But to start things off here, Hachi, congrats on getting picked up by OG. Where might people who have seen you and your team before kind of recognize you from?
Yeah, so we were a part of All Grey T beforehand. So that's where people would at least know me from. We're a part of the OG roster. We have 3 of the core from Earl Grey Tea, and then we picked up 3 new people and also 2 new subs. So that would be where people know us from. We got top 16 in the last MRC. We played a Coronavonium Cup and got top 4 there. So yeah, that's what I've been up to at least in the past few seasons.
Nice. Well, congrats for that. I know OG, when I was talking to some of the people there, they were looking for kind of a good start to see exactly how they can build a roster to where they want them to be. So I'm glad you guys got picked up for that. And it's a great opportunity for you. On the other side of things, though, for NA or Americas, as they're calling it now, Alfie, you qualified in the last sprint to make it past the finish line for Luminosity. You guys are so close on making it the first qualifier, but now the second. I mean, talk to me about the nerves that come from having to play on an old patch, then a new patch in a completely different meta. Like, how was that for you and your team to make it into Ignite in that second qualifier?
Yeah, it was definitely tough. Unfortunately, we had to play Nemesis, which I think are some of the tougher opponents that was in that stage. We've scrimmed them a bunch and we've, traded blows back and forth, but their team is really strong, especially with their coaches. Big shout out to Fox helping them grow all the way and all of them. But it was definitely stressful. Like, we were trying to put in as many hours as we can. We were also trying out new coaches. We had Fox come in for a little bit, but FlyQuest stole him, so we didn't get him locked in. But Stage 2 was luckily a little bit easier. We got to play V-Dart Monkeys, which they're actually a pretty solid team. Paradox played with us, and I believe Gaswin was on the roster as well. So we didn't take them for chumps or anything or ego them at all. And they played really well, but thankfully we made it. We are in. Stress levels are going down a little bit, and now we can just kind of focus on advanced bans and locking in for whatever the group stage might entail.
I mean, we could have potentially seen Flats and Necros both be tier 1 pros, essentially. So thank you for preventing that, because I feel like all the comment sections of everything in the content scene would be insufferable, even more so than we have seen before. But no shade to the people on Dart Monkeys. I mean, congrats to them for making it that close. And if there was an extra spot based on, how things did work out in other regions, wouldn't be surprised if they did make it there at the end of it. Potentially can make it through MRC if they stick together for stage 2. But Minty, as I talked about before, you kind of alluded to, you basically have a world record here with 3 different rosters as a manager that you have made it into Ignite with. I mean, how does that feel as an accomplishment, but also for those teams? And what is like the special sauce here for you as a manager to get them past that initial qualifying stage?
I think I just need to start off just by saying that I book scrims and stuff. Like, the players do all the talent. If they turned up and lost, like, I can't do anything about that. The players earned every win that they've got. Any roster that I've ever been with has been. I can give it whatever direction I want to. If the players don't play well, the players won't perform well. So just off rip, it's all them. That said, there is. I think we need to talk maybe a little bit more about kind of what I do specifically later on, maybe. But I was really lucky. I got to work with. I've been working with 0% for a while. Those are some of my closest friends now. Some of the people there. I look forward to seeing them on a day. It's amazing. I was with Fish Strays until very recently as well, and I've got a great relationship with those guys, especially for some of you the management team and the owners there. And more recently, I've been working with Blood Corridor as well. Which has been super exciting. All those rosters have tried really hard. They've all been putting a lot of work in, especially that last week with Fear. Has been super productive. They've done so much work and they've got so much out of it. I'm super impressed. And yeah, as you said, 3 out of 16 teams in EU were Minty teams. Crazy.
Pretty good.
Which is a crazy number, right?
Yeah, insane numbers to talk about. We'll kind of go over the list of the teams who qualify, the teams who are already invited into Ignite. And Jesse, I'm sharing my screen now, so you know. We'll kind of go through OCE, Asia, China, and then into the big leagues, which is EMEA and Americas. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They have the biggest prize pool, $250,000, so they're competing in each stage of the competition. But here's some of the qualifiers that we saw here. So Ground Zero Gaming, Quetzal, and Xavier Hope in the first one, and Bethany, Pig Team, and Gap. There was a couple upsets that happened through there, but let me show the actual players. Shout out to these rosters who made it there. We still don't know Platinum Stars team. Again, still a week out, basically. We don't know some of these rosters. It's still insane to me where we're supposed to start tomorrow. So Platinum Star, please announce that roster if you haven't already. Kanga Esports, of course, already invited. There's only this many teams, though, as you can see, for OCE, a lot less competition than you see in the 16-team regions. Going to be the same for China as well as Asia, a little less teams there as you do see for the other regions. But China here, they had the 3 teams or 4 teams and then 2 teams is how things went for these qualifiers specifically instead of the 4 and 4 for these teams. The brother team, FL Esports Club, FIS, ZYG, Team Haas, and I wish I knew Chinese because I would try to pronounce that, but congrats to that team either way for qualifying there. Still don't know the rosters for these other squads because, again, it's on a different client. We have to rely on them reporting things. Shout out to the Liquipedia team for getting all the information that they can, but eHome, SLZZ, OUG, Taeyeon Gaming, Nova Esports, and Uwu FPS, great team name, are the invited teams that you can see there. And then, of course, Asia to round out those kind of other teams from the ones that we might not be as familiar with that did have their specific qualifiers. So Crazy Raccoon, Gen G, XOXO01 as their team. They haven't announced it yet. Reject and Rival Esports, they had their announcements recently too. And then here's all the open qualifier teams. Imagine, they actually messaged me on Twitter recently, and they're like, we didn't even realize we qualified because we played that lower bracket matchup because one of the teams for MRI didn't accept their invite for whatever reason. So they got a spot through that. They're super happy about it. So shout out to those guys over there specifically. MVN Esports, I mean, they got close in the first split qualifier for them. But the other teams, of course, congrats to them too. But the meat and potatoes for a lot of these different teams and squads out here that qualified, as you can see with EMEA open qualifiers, they had the most teams qualify because you only had 6 total that were invited because some teams declined those invitations. First stage, we saw, or first split, Team 1 is 0%, Alcacia and Berber Patapim. I'd say that was a super stacked roster of talent making it in their qualifier. And then afterwards, we saw Insomnia, Yoankada, Blood Corrido, L9, which was, I believe that was blacklisted. I guess they changed their name. That's what I see here. I didn't see any posts anywhere, but that's what it is on Wikipedia. Shmungus, which is Boger Necros' team, and Y Andrew. And then FYR Strays as well at the end of that. So we'll talk about this and go over to Americas. I mean, in terms of the teams who qualified, are there any here, Minty, that you kind of expected to make it that didn't make it through that gauntlet of teams to make it to the stage?
I think there's 1 or 2 notable, I think 2 or maybe 2 or 3 notable teams that didn't make it, in my opinion. Ex-Oblivion, I think is probably
That's true. They weren't even on the stage. Yeah, they lost earlier on. I think it was to Strays, right?
Yeah, they had a 2-1 series with. Was it 2-1 or was it 2-0? They had a straight series with Fierce Strays.
2-0, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you might be right. I think it was as well. They had a series with Fierce Strays and lost both maps, which I know they were super upset about. They didn't feel like they played very well on the day.
2-1 is what we're getting told.
2-1, it is 2-1? I thought it was. It was a close series, and they did really well. So they did, except unfortunately, they had a really tough bracket. They lost a game to Shmungus in best of 1, so they got a bad seed. Because of this, they ended up playing against Fierce Strays really early on, which is a real shame because I believe if Ex-Oblivion got a chance in losers bracket, they probably would have qualified. So if they faced Ex-Oblivion, like if they faced Fear 1 map later, even if they lost still, then potentially it would have been better for them. So, you know, it is what it is.
It's rough out there.
Yeah, the other
there's a lot of talent in this scene, and like still so many potential upsets that can happen just based on the format we saw alone. So hopefully, if NetEase is listening, please change things to not be based off of just the best of 1 random map where it really just determines if you're actually going to have a good time, if you're on attacking or defending, or what mode you're playing. I'm sure that was a bit rough for you guys too.
Yeah. I mean, especially for seeding, it's crazy. The team that got ranked #1 seed in the second week, I don't know if you followed it at all, Hachiko, but it was literally like the guys who did it they skipped the first day because all the best teams, I'm sure you did this, Alfie, all the best teams play day one. Yep. They play on the Wednesday. If it's Wednesday, Thursday, all the best teams try and get their 10 games done on the Wednesday. And then Thursday comes along and it's just like some random GM teams who are doing 5 and 5.
Yeah, it's like 40 teams that were just not there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. All the best teams have played. So what these guys did is they just said, well, we're just going to wait till Thursday, play our 10 games because we know we'll only be against GMs.
Exactly.
And hopefully if we get to defend enough first, like we'll get top seed. And that is exactly what happened. A random like mid to high Celestial team like randomly took top seed with their most notable player being TXTC. So don't have a clue
Please
how on earth.
Please.
I don't even know how you change it because but
it has to be quick. Yeah. So that's like the tough part about it. Like maybe having some initial seeding since you have the results from the stage 1 qualifiers and teams who have qualified into that, like maybe have them directly invited into a closed qualifier system of it. I think that'd be better, like directly to the bracket stage. That way they don't have to play all the way through those like random qualifiers if they have, enough of their rosters the same. This is just coming from someone who got done adminning for RLCS and Rocket League for the season. And it's like just seeing the different ways that you could go about seeding teams, but also just going based off of like expectations from previous events. And if they have at least, 2/3 of their roster still remaining and are pretty much the same team, or even just combining points is what we've seen happen too, based on different rosters for that. So there's a couple different ways they could go about it, and hopefully they do listen to some of that feedback. I've heard they have been taking feedback at least from some of the teams for future stages and qualifiers and stuff. But again, this is their first time running this, so everything's with a grain of salt on that side of things. But yeah, you got to see the teams here from the open qualifiers. A lot of teams for EMEA and some great teams out there as well that honestly should have been invited initially compared to some other squads out there. But also, we did get the org still having their spots, which I think is still important in its own right. I mean, seeing OG, you guys got picked up there too. Dusty had their spot. Zero Tenacity, they had a couple of changes happen here and there. Team Peps, I think for the most part, kept their roster. Same for Verse Pro and All Business. But
Team Peps is a completely new roster.
Oh, it's a completely new roster. I didn't even know that.
Leaf Harquist and Shu are coming over, but DRP played with Supremacy.
That's right.
Which was the Yuzin team. Aura Stealer I don't know who he was with last season, but he got top 8 MRC, I think. No, not top 8. Top 8 was
it with like the 0-0, like something like, was it 6-0 or 6S or something like that?
It might. No, 6S was the Russian team.
Oh, okay, that's right.
He was. He might have been top 12 or something MRC. He didn't get a bad MRC placement, but he didn't have a notable team. He's with them now. He's one of the better Lokis in Europe. And Larry W played for Flingers, who got 16th in MRC, who was also a Euphoria trialist. Back when Euphoria was around, was Larry W. Is their team. They've got the same coaches and stuff. I believe Loico's still managing it. I think they still have this. Perhaps it's known for having just so many coaches. I think they still kept their coaches.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that they made some changes. I think that's important for a lot of these teams too, to keep things fresh and also just adapt in terms of the meta and everything else that's expected for this upcoming season with the Flyers and everything else that's going on. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's move on quickly over to America's for stage 1 here as well. So we get to see, the usual suspects that qualify. We weren't too surprised about that. Sentinels, 100 Thieves, Shroudux. Big shout out though to Dark Zero, who picked up the old Magnus roster with some changes. Hogs coming over from Sentinels to be a main tank on that team. Shout out to them as well. Good that they found a spot too. And then on the other side of things, you can see from the MRI invites, FlyQuest, Envy, Shikigami. Still don't know the Shikigami roster officially, but most people in the know kind of know that roster out there. And then NTMR or Nightmare, they picked up the old Arius. Still debates on even from the players and managers.
I believe
of
it's
that,
Aris,
if it is
I believe.
Aris. Okay, I keep hearing like both things from both like people in the org and stuff. It's like, okay, one of those two. And then on the other side of things, you got to see Jobless Bums got the win over Alani Win, which was Chalkit. To get their spot. Solaris got the win over Arrival 7 to make their spot. Citadel Gaming got their win as well. And Team Nemesis, we talked about before, got the win over Luminosity. Is it Texid? Is that how you say the name?
Techie XD.
Tech EXD,
Like, it's
you know,
just
that makes a lot of sense. Tech EXD, which is a player on Sentinels, right? Yeah, Techie. So like
that was his old team, and they just like took his
okay,
name
that makes a
and
bit
brought
more
with them.
sense. I was like, what is the context here? Are they just super fans of Techie? Good to know. Ego Def, we got to see make it through. Alani Wind, of course. They basically had to win off a coin flip from playing against a South American team. Hopefully they change something with that. Maybe have their own South American qualifier in the future. I think it would be a better option, in my opinion, just based on ping being such an issue in that. And of course, as we see here at Luminosity Gaming, the biggest team I would say that did not make it, though, a Rival 7. I mean, for Alfie, like, how are you feeling about that in terms of like competition that could have made it, should have made it? Like, they had a couple of chances, but they also had like rough matchups themselves too.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with EU. It's like EXO not making it is kind of crazy, but that's just going to happen. You know, there's a lot of teams that are close. I personally think, I'm not going to name teams, but I do think a Rival 7 is better than some of the rosters that qualified. But, you know, if you're not able to win when it counts, then who's to say you really deserve it over another team? That would have been the case for my team, right? Like, if we lost, you could say we're better or worse than XYZ, but we didn't win when it mattered, if that happened. So I feel bad for the guys because like I said, I think they deserve it for sure. And they've taken games off my team a good amount. So sucks to see them go, but I'm sure they'll do well in MRC if they stick together. I could easily see them taking one of the top spots and then just qualifying to stage 2 directly. So
that's the good thing about MRC. It's basically like tier 2 at this point as their own qualification path into stage 2. And I think the teams who got invited directly aren't able to play it. Are you guys who qualified able to play in MRC, or did they like kind of
from
figure
what we
out
understand, we're not allowed to play.
Okay,
Like,
that's good to hear, because that way it doesn't like muddy it too much.
I'm sure there's a world where people maybe try and scam it and play on Smurf accounts. But
Yeah,
I know
probably.
my team is like, we're just going to scrim. We don't want to deal with any other games that have like that much meaning behind it. And I feel like it's just rude to force teams.
Yeah, exactly. Since it's like 2 separate tiers is what they seem to be trying to do with that, giving a second chance to these teams who didn't make it. I mean, INFS Esports and also Q Resinha. I mean, they were both the teams from South America that had the best chances, but of course, you know, having to play that coin flip with the servers, depending on if they had the admin in the lobby, or I think it was just basically granted to these teams based on how the rules worked, from what I read before, for server preference to them. So some teams had to play on their server in like the previous matches to get to this point, which is rough as well. Not the best format, I would say, for that.
Yeah,
too, but
it's a bit tough when it's that. I think they should really add a Miami server or something.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Or maybe like a Puerto Rican server.
Something
Hopefully
like
that
that
it doesn't get hit by a hurricane when these games are happening, because it's pretty close to that season. But
yeah,
I think some kind of Southeast server that's a little bit more neutral. It would feel pretty bad for both California players and West Coasters. And then I'm sure Brazilian and maybe like Argentina players wouldn't feel as great either. But at least everyone's kind of equal versus it just being North Virginia or Sao Paulo.
Exactly. Yeah. A bit more neutral on that end too. North Virginia is not even that close to like some of the more southern, like Western states that you see out there too.
Yeah,
like South California is like, what are we doing here? Either way though.
My California teammate plays on like 110 ping to Virginia. That's crazy.
So hopefully they fix some server stuff in the future, especially if they're going to be having this tier 1 competition. You got to make sure there's at least as even of a playing field as you can for that. And I'm sure, you know, the players that have experienced these issues like Q Resina and INF Esports have their own thoughts about it. They want their own specific regional qualifiers, which I think if there's enough teams eventually, that would be a good thing to have too, just as their own circuit that they could play and eventually maybe face off against some of the Americas teams on like a LAN environment, so that way it's as cohesive as it can be for that experience and as competitive as possible, because we don't know like how good these teams can be if you're playing on a ping diff each time, right? So it's just a rough spot for them to be in. Congrats to making it to the top 8 that time, and we saw them get close in the first stage or split 1 as they're calling it, qualifier before there as well. But going back to EMEA here for a second, we can take this down for now, Jesse. But I wanted to talk to you as well, Hachi, about this specifically. So you mentioned the Chronovium Cup event that you and your team placed fourth. You lost only to Berber Patapim in 0%, took down QAD though, which is pretty awesome. Yep. And you know, you guys got top 16 in MRC. I mean, since you had those results kind of a month ago, you've had some changes here and there. I mean, where would you feel like your peak as a squad is compared to the other rosters that we've got to see so far in other events or play in like even Rivals Fight Night?
Yeah, I think it's definitely pretty hard to say, right? Because there's been so many changes on all different rosters, and we're coming off a whole new season and a whole new meta. So every team is kind of figuring out what they want to play. So I think it's hard to say, like, this team that might have been really good in the last meta might not be the best in the new meta, right? So it's going to be interesting to see, but I definitely think, like, obviously the big names like VP, I think Patapim as well, and then Team One, old LG, they're obviously think they're going to be on top of the meta. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see. Just gotta be the best team on top, right? To learn a new meta and see who can adapt the most, and because we don't have a lot of time, right? Like, we were supposed to be playing today or tomorrow. So if that would have been the case, right, then every team would have had like less than a week to prepare new meta. So just having a week more would definitely give the teams a bit more time to prepare, and hopefully we'll see some interesting matchups.
I saw FlyQuest talking about that specifically. They're like, man, if only it was starting right now. We were so prepared. We were like destroying people at scrims and all this stuff. I mean, Alfie, like, on the Americas side of things, how do you feel things have been looking so far in terms of preparation for these squads for the new season and for Ignite itself?
Yeah, it's been pretty fun. My team's kind of been out of the loop because we had to unfortunately run the basic bans, and because MRI is on advanced bans, a lot of teams that were already in were like, well, we don't want to run basic. So it was a bit tough to get scrims against the higher squads. I know we scrimmed Dark Zero, old Magnets, like once or twice, and we just did half and half with them. But I think teams are adapting to the meta, but like Hachi said, it's tough. I mean, if we had to play this weekend, it would have been really hard for my team specifically because we weren't practicing on advanced bans for the last 2 to 3 weeks of scrims. And it's like, okay, well, now we just have to figure out this whole new ban system and also a new meta. So it was double hard. So I'm glad we got that extra week to get some practice in with the bands. And we actually just got like a new coach that is helping us a lot with that too. So I'm excited to see. I think the top teams are kind of set in stone, but who knows with the meta shift up. I feel like Envy, FlyQuest, Sentinels, 100 Thieves definitely have like a bit of an edge above other teams, but it's not that much. It's like a 2% difference. And as we saw in Fight Night in NA, it goes back and forth all the time, you know. Shikigami, new team Nemesis, will take games, and then Shroud X will just own everyone and then lose the next week.
Lose everything.
Hard. Yeah, it's like all these teams can do really well and really bad at the same time, even on the patch, not even with a new patch coming out. So I'm excited to see how these new teams adapt and getting some scrims in on advanced bans too with the whole new meta.
It's going to be interesting for sure on that side of things to see exactly how this new meta is going to adapt, especially through like the group stage, whatever that does look like for Ignite itself. But going back to like talking about this Ignite, we're not going to talk about the schedule just yet, but Minty, I mean, you did kind of allude to like where you're kind of at as a manager now because you qualified with 3 teams. I mean, how is that process like now that you're going into the Ignite season?
So I had a bit of issue with NetEase regarding managing 3 teams. As I'm sure you could probably expect, they weren't very happy about the idea of one person effectively having a lot of control over how potentially the region could form. So NetEase did tell me, they backtracked a little bit. NetEase told me that I had to drop 2 of my rosters, which was really upsetting. At this point, when they had told me, I was already roster locked to 1 roster. So it wasn't a conversation to be had about even what I wanted to do, which is really frustrating because the same day that I got told this by NetEase, I've been offered a paid contract by one of the teams.
No!
Which I wasn't even able to consider because I got told that I had to drop them. NetEase about a day or 2 later did kind of change their mind and say, if you want to manage 2, like as long as the teams agree, then we can make that happen, which is what I'm doing. So there's not really, fingers crossed at least, there's not a big issue there anymore. That's done. But yeah, we're at a point where we're practicing both my teams now. We're trying to scrim as much as we can with other MRI teams, Ignite teams, not Invitational. Trying to scrim primarily with other teams who are within our ecosystem now. We're in this like weird point where we want to scrim as much NA as we can because we won't play NA until playoffs.
Makes sense.
Potentially, or later on, but we don't actually know when we'll play NA, but we can only assume it won't be within groups. So we're trying to scrim a lot of NA. We're trying to scrim a lot of Asia. So like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. scrims for EU, like with Chinese, Asian teams whenever we can. Been getting blocks with Gen G, for example, which has been super. And also measuring what other regions are doing. EU didn't find out about, this is really specific, EU didn't find out about Iron Man for about 2 months, about a month and a half, because NA were playing it every map. EU didn't find out about Iron Man on 2.0, the last patch, for about a month, I think. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It took a while for it to come over from NA to EU that Iron Man was a character. And now Ultron's out, he's played all the time.
So much. Yeah, especially with the team ups and everything too, and the extra damage boost.
Yeah,
too.
the beam team up is crazy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a character in EU, which is crazy, because if you loaded up ranked NA, like Iron Man was like banned every game, and everyone in EU was like, why are they banning Iron Man? This isn't a character. And then we started playing him and went, oh, he's really good.
Wait a minute, he's got a death laser. Like,
he's so much better than anyone realized he was. So it's really interesting to see how the regions are different. So finding a healthy balance between like who we're scrimming, what we're scrimming, making scrims purposeful. Working with the coaches to make sure that like we're going in with a purpose. There are some teams we want them to think that we're bad, right? Or we want them to think we play certain things. We're playing certain things in scrims. There's certain strats where like, I don't know if you guys have this in LG, where like we're afraid to play it in scrims because we don't want teams to start doing it. Like, we have a very specific strat that we don't want teams to know, and we're waiting till we've practiced it once or twice, and now we're waiting till official. We won't play it again in scrims until then.
Right, those game day strats you sometimes want to say.
But you don't want to. We said we're doing Blood Crido. One of my rosters is doing Fight Night on Thursday. We've already said like if these maps come up, then we're not doing this, because we don't want this Fight Night is probably going to be scouted by everyone. Everyone's going to be looking at it. That's why Virtus Pro said they're not doing it. It wasn't because
Makes
they weren't
sense.
available.
Yeah, I don't want to give away those strats.
They're the best team in the world. Well, more than likely, at least. Last time I was on here,
I can agree with that.
Guy. Yeah, about
I think most people will say that. We haven't seen them in an actual tournament in a while, though, is all I'm saying.
we haven't, but there's a reason for that as well. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They know that everyone is going to look at them for what to play, how to play it.
Yep.
So they're just not going to show it. They're just not going to show people how to do it, because then this way, when they get into groups, they can just smack everyone.
The gods
no
of gatekeeping.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, and they're right for it. You can hate them for it, but they are absolutely correct to do that.
I mean, don't they mainly scrim like NA teams too, to like avoid like the matchups against the EU squads? Yeah, I think there's a caution of improving EU. NA's position is incredibly comfortable because has there ever been? Can you guys think of any time in esports there's been a team with such a dominant grip over the scene that VP has, like right now in EU? No, not in a while.
Any other example like of a team that has been so much better than any other team. But like even a 2-3 series is like celebrated. I can't think of any other.
Cheers around the world for that one.
Literally, like I had people in Asia were talking about it. With Patapim almost went to map 5 with Virtus Pro. They were talking about it over there. So it's super interesting finding ways of doing it. But we Virtus Pro do scrim EU though. They don't not scrim EU. They just scrim a lot of EU.
Exactly.
And they're very cautious about who they scrim, because they don't want. This is something we did. Alcadzia, we stopped scrimming. My team stopped scrimming them. Not because they were bad.
Stopped scrimming them.
We did, not because they were bad or because they were underperforming. They weren't the best team in EU, but their coach was really good, and we noticed that they were getting a lot more from our scrims than we were getting from scrimming them. And our coaches said, "Look, like I don't know what they're doing. These guys go into the hyperbolic time chamber every time that we scrim them, and they come back. Like we still beat them, but we don't like where this is going, so we're going to stop screwing them now because they're learning too much." And I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is a real roster, a real team with a real coach who could actually like take some maps off us if they are allowed to. And I think VP kind of have a similar approach to EU, where there's certain teams they are worried about learning too much from them.
It's going to be interesting for sure to see exactly like how the teams shape up. And speaking of that, we have the tier maker for EMEA. We're going to do Americas afterwards. So hold your horses, people from Americas that want to see our specific opinions on it. This is going to be a group tier list. It's not going to be individual ones because, again, a lot of this is hearsay because we haven't seen the rosters face off against each other in quite some time. There's new rosters, new meta, all this kind of sort of stuff. So take everything with a grain of salt, please. But, you know, you can trash this a little bit. I'll say that. So starting at the tier list, VP, I mean, we can kind of universally put them top 4, right? I don't think we need to debate that whatsoever. It's kind of agreed that VP are going to be that. And Jesse, it might be better to swap to the one where it's kind of like horizontal that way, just so it shows all the graphic for it, so we're not kind of like cutting things off on our end. I should have prepped you with that. That's my bad. But yeah, so VP, I mean, you can't argue that they're not going to be top 4, right?
I don't know.
VP their own tier. I mean, that makes sense.
I think you could put them above the list, really, if you wanted to.
I think it's tier. Yeah, I think if you,
let me see if I can add a VP tier. I don't know if I can
just
like
one
right
VP
now.
tier.
Let me see.
World champ.
Add a robo. There we go.
Can we add
VP
a bottom
tier
tier as well? I have a team I want to put at very bottom as well.
The
bottom
tier.
Okay, gotcha. I'll add a bottom tier too.
We can call it. Can you make it blue? It's for
I can make it blue. Actually, one second. Let me delete that row.
Thanks.
There we go. We're doing this stuff live, so bear with us, everyone.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, actually, add row below. Then we change this one to blue. And what do you want this new tier to be named?
Dusty.
Oh, okay, I got you. So this is Dusty tier.
This is Dusty tier. They're in a league of their own. They're the most incredible team in the history of Europe. They turned up to Marvel Rivals Ignite. They won one map in the entire time they were there. They lost their best player in the time off, and they haven't scrimmed like more than 4 times since they came back together. They were meant to play Twisted Minds for the last spot in Ignite, and Twisted Minds just didn't get a roster in time. So they had to forfeit, and Dusty just swept in and came in with their roster, who has played 5 games of ranked between them all season. So if Dusty aren't the worst team in Ignite, then something's gone horribly wrong. There's no hate to anyone on Dusty. I have good relationships with their players. If they aren't the worst team in Ignite, something's gone terribly wrong.
I guess we'll have to see. So we got Dusty tier, we got VP tier. Aside from that, I'm going to throw this one to you, Hachi. Where do you feel like OG Seed, which I think is like the official name for the roster, is going to be ranked based on like your personal assessment for this?
I mean, I think it's hard, right? I think there's so many like accomplished teams already.
You put you somewhere for now and then kind of adjust things later as well.
Yeah. I think, you know, if we look at like past achievements from teams and stuff like that, like there's so many like teams up here that have like past achievements to like show for it, while it says we might not have as much, right? So I would probably say, like, looking at the teams here, I would probably put us like from 9 to 12 at the moment, if I'm just looking from past
9 to 12
like past experience. Yeah, if I'm looking at like past achievements and stuff from the teams, right? Because I think there's like some big names up there. Like VP is definitely the team to beat, right? But I also think like Team One and Patipim, they're also really good teams, and yeah, there's a lot of good teams up there. So that is probably where
saying Dusty beat them is. I just want to interject with that real quick. I don't know if I don't think that's true. I think that's memeing, but you know, who knows?
Maybe we need to put Dusty, you know, second place then.
Yeah, you know what? That's right. Top 4 Dusty. Nah. There we go.
The true underdogs, bro.
That's
win,
the actual prediction here.
Cancel the league.
Sweet. Okay, so we got OG 9 through 12, VP in their own tier, Dusty in their own tier. Alfie, you have any like heated opinions about any specific squads where you think they should go?
I'll leave this one to the EU players, bro.
Leave it to the EU? Okay, I just want to get your contributions
for the
there for a sec. I got you. Okay, so Minty, let's go with your teams now. We'll start with Team 0%. One of many teams that have 0 in their name, mind
2,
you.
3, and 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really hard. So I'm of the opinion that I think that the top three teams I think are really set in stone right now, and I think 4th place is one that's most up for grabs.
Gotcha.
I think there are teams that can dethrone number 3. I think Team 1 and 2 are pretty locked in. I don't think there's. I won't spoil who I think is my number 2, but I think 0% and Blood Corrido, which are the 2 teams I'm currently representing, are so close in terms of level right now. I think both of them could fight could be fighting for top of 8 to top 4. Okay. In my personal opinion, like if either of them could be at the bottom right now, either of those teams could be bottom of top 4 or top of top 8. In my opinion, I don't want to have a massive ego, but I don't think either of them, with realistically, is beating Berber Patapim at this stage or Virtus.pro. Both of those teams could be at the bottom of top 4 or at the top of top 8. I don't know what you've scrimmed both those teams, Hachiko. I don't know what you think about that. Do you think that's accurate or not? I'm obviously biased, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think both are great teams, right? I think it's definitely hard to say again, like with the new meta. I think every team is just testing stuff out right now. Every time we're scrimming a new team, they're playing something new, testing stuff out, right? So I think it's very hard to say in terms of that. But yeah, I think top 3 teams, they're definitely set in stone, as you said, right? And I think
who are these other teams that are in the top 3? I mean, we kind of know, right?
Let's leak it, guys. Come on.
Yeah, Team 1 and Berber. There's no question.
Yeah. Now the question is, what would be the order of those two? Berber, Team 1. I mean, Team 1.
Team 1. I think in Berber's really the thing with Berber Patapim is, again, someone interject with me if you disagree. This is a roster that will take the closest ever record series with Virtus.pro in 2-3. And then in Ignite qualifiers, they randomly lost a map to a team called Ulumulu, who no one had ever heard of. Right? But this is the most inconsistent team at the top level, probably in Rivals right now. But they also were the ones who were almost about to do. If there was a team, it's so strange, because if you asked me which one of those two was more likely to beat VP, I would tell you Berber. But if you asked me which one was the better team, I'd tell you Team 1.
Okay.
They're more inconsistent than Team 1. Team 1 is like consistently able to do good versus all the top teams.
That's
Berber
really
could lose to anyone, but also beat anyone. It's like
exactly.
Their floor is a lot lower than the floor of Team 1, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Ulumulu. It's no hate to roster. I think they are all obviously amazing players, but then they lose to a team that no one had ever even heard of. Well, we were meant to face Ulumulu in a tournament recently, 0% were, and our analysts couldn't find who was even on their roster because they were just so unknown. And that was how bad it was. And we ended up finding out through asking teams if they'd ever scrimmed them and finding out through that way. But it was so difficult to find this information about just who they even were. So they're losing to, no disrespect to the players if anyone's watching, they lost to a completely unknown group, at least a map. They won the series. And then Blood Corrido, who had been a roster at the time for 40 hours, I think, less than, they went in what was probably, for anyone who was watching in EU at the time, probably the closest series in all of week 1 of the Ignite qualifiers in the MEA. It went down, both, like 2 maps went down to last fight. It was 2-1, and it was incredibly close. For people who were watching it live will probably vouch this was probably the closest map in week 1. In week 1. So, and that's against a team that existed for 40 hours. Now, you tell me if that says more about Berber or more about how strong Blood Corrido are, because I don't know.
I think it says a little bit about both, right? Because again, there's like, that honeymoon phase for new teams that find their like gel from the get-go, and then you're like, okay, what's the longevity like? What are they going to be looking like in stage 2 if they do make it to like the mid-season and automatically make top 8 and go into that spot and stick as a roster? There's so many potential like what ifs for these teams, but also nice to see that Blood Corrido are having those peaks when they need to actually get into Ignite in that way. We also need to talk about FYR Strays. I mean, where do we feel like they are at right now, Minty?
I feel that Sphere Strays have just had the best week of their life in terms of improvement. That said, I think we need to, like Hachiko said before, I think this needs to be based on results and where teams have performed recently. Blood Corrido doing really well against Berber Patapim, 0%, doing really well, going 1-3 in Fight Night against Team 1. Both have like pretty impressive records, taking out other top teams in tournaments as well. Sphere Strays did take out Ex-Oblivion, which was quite impressive. True. They also had a 2-1 series for Yoinkanda, who are made up of former 0% players who got 8th in MRC and were 3rd place in Marvel Rivals Invitational. So they lost to a pretty impressive team. That said, I think for the teams that are here, I think they're probably on currently maybe around maybe the top 9 to 12. I hope that doesn't come across as disrespectful to them. I think that they are on a really upward momentum at this time.
Okay.
I think they're on the
Okay.
way up.
9 to 12, 9 to 12. I see. I respect it. I mean, talking about some of these other teams, Hachi, I want to get your opinion on this. Where do you think Alcacia are at then? Because like you guys took them down. A lot of teams think they're kind of like a weird roster to play against because they like learned so much from scrims. But like, where does this team feel like they should be currently?
I think it's hard. We haven't actually scrimmed them on the new meta yet, on the new season. I think they're definitely a strong team for sure. But again, we haven't played them that much for me to like know. Going out from the match, we actually played them in a Chronovonium Cup. I'd probably it's hard based on all the teams here, right? I'd probably put them top 8.
Top 8? Okay.
Probably, yeah. Looking at like the teams that's left down there, maybe this is just me, but I think Zero Tenacity is a very, very strong contender, at least from what I have seen so far. Maybe just a personal opinion, but I think Zero Tenacity, they're really like they're up there at least. I don't know about you, Minty. What
I feel
you
like
have seen
Minty's got
and
an
stuff,
opinion on this one. Knut just joined our Discord too for the podcast, so he's watching.
Perhaps we have a different opinion, but that's just my opinion so far, at least in this season.
About you, Minty.
So okay.
Putting you on the spot
Put
now.
your hands up, guys.
This is hard. I didn't know I was going to do this live on air. Because I made tier lists and I deliberately didn't share them. So I personally think that Zero Tenacity is the term someone else used was a dark horse, where they just had a roster change, and since they had a roster change, I don't feel bad in saying that their performance in scrims has not been what it was before. Since the roster change, if anyone doesn't know, they recruited Melio for a little while. Who left for Team 1. I don't think that's second. Everyone knew that he joined for a little bit, and he went to Team 1, second best team in the world. He got the opportunity. Anyone in his position probably would have taken it. It was a great opportunity for him. Then Zero Tenacity wanted to take the player Jerky, who was a professional Fortnite player. Anyone who doesn't know Jerky, he is not known for saying very nice things on the internet, and so the org didn't want to take him.
Makes sense.
They looked at the rest of the players who were available. Bear in mind how, because Zero Tenacity was an invited team, they had to submit their roster before qualifiers started.
Which is not much time.
So they had, I think by the time that they decided they weren't able to take the Jerky player, they had about 2 or 3 days left to pick a player. The player they took has just joined your Discord, as you mentioned, was Newton, who's recently rejoined Zero Tenacity. He played for Zero Tenacity before as well, when back with Erater and Gainer and the original Ecstatic roster.
Shout out.
That got picked up. This team, I'm told that in the last week, this team has been performing much better than when they re-picked up this player. I have not personally seen that because none of my teams have scrimmed them in the last week. Is my defense there? So I haven't seen that. I've heard that they have been performing at a higher level. So it's really difficult for me to accurately say.
So what is your number here?
I think that I would put them in the largely unstable 9 to 12 tier, and you're probably going to hear me say that about 5 more teams as well.
It's tough because there's so many teams who have the potential to be 9 to 12. That could also be like 13 to 16, but could also peak into top 8. So it's like
my honest opinion is that there is one bad team in EU. There is one bad team in EMEA, and there is so much room for upsets. And the top 8 will be decided more on brackets than skill, with how close some of these teams are. The brackets will make or break everything. I believe there is one bad team in all of EU. That's it. And everything else is up for grabs. Everyone else can go everywhere. The coaching that some of these teams have is some of these teams have incredible coaching staff who are locked in. Some, not all, and like who are doing crazy things. Zero Tenacity's coach is amazing. Dark Zero is probably one of the best coaches currently in EU.
Not the org, by the way.
No, not the org. Dark Zero in NA. But
the whole org is coaching this team.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
He's incredible. He's one of the best coaches in EU. Some of the stuff I've heard him say, like from stuff, is astounding. That is a team that, if they have proper analyst work and he's doing work and stuff like that, they could upset a lot of teams. And that is the question then of, does that make them better than these teams if the analyst, if their basic counter-stratting to make them better? I don't have the answer to that. It is about performance, and I have no idea. Ultimately, we have no idea. And groups are going to decide so much. And
Groups is going to decide so much. I mean, there's so much going on with groups and everything of that sort.
There are 14 teams who you could kind of, well, okay, there are 12 teams who you could put in any order and you would have a point. The top, like Dusty at the bottom, it has to be a lock, and the top 3 of VP, Team 1, and Berber are probably locked as well. You could realistically, the rest of it, you can put kind of any, in more or less any order and have a point. Because we don't know. We just don't know. All Business haven't really. What was the last? Does anyone know? Has All Business done a tournament since season 1 MRC?
They haven't. No. As far as I'm aware.
So I know a little bit about how.
Let's talk about All Business. I mean, where do we put All Business at this point? We haven't seen this team in such a long time. They're gonna get a good seed allegedly, just based on how groups should go. If it's gonna go off of how the qualifiers work for MRC, MRI, and so forth. So. I mean, they're going to have a good seed, but is that going to be enough for them to get like the top cut of their group? I'm assuming it'll be like top 8 move on to the next playoff stage or whatever that is. So it's like, okay, do we think they're a 9-12? Do we think they're a 13-16? Do we think they're a Dusty? Because we don't know. So
I don't think they're not a Dusty tier.
Okay.
They're not a Dusty.
They're not a Dusty.
This is a thing that we don't know. We literally like. It's so difficult to say with EU because there's not so many tournaments, and not all these teams enter tournaments. I think you could. They took a map off VP in official, right? That was a big claim to fame, and Psylocke is pretty good, like especially with the new Emma team up. Like Psylocke's pretty good right now, and 2Z on Psylocke was a big part of their winning strategy. I don't know.
It's tough.
I think
we'll keep them in the 9-12 tier for now, because I think that's like kind of where we're going to put a lot of teams, and then move up or down from that spot based on where some of these teams rank. Insomnia. So they're another team who qualified through the Split 2 qualifier here. They had a better seed. So, I mean, are we saying 13-16? Are we saying 9-12? I mean, I think we're not saying top 8. So it's like...
Somebody's got to go in Boblo. It's just going to happen.
Someone's got to go.
I know all the players from these teams. I know all the managers from these teams. I can't believe I'm on a spot like this.
Hachi, you got any opinion on this to give Minty some time to think?
On Insomnia, I think they're pretty good. But again, it's hard for me to say because, I mean, half of these teams up here, we haven't scrimmed, at least not in a while. So I don't know how they compare to the rest of the teams, right? I would say, I mean, they're pretty good, right? But I don't know how they compare to the rest of the teams. So it's... Yeah. It's hard to put them somewhere.
For now,
we'll put them in 9-12, bro. Let's extend the 9-12.
Okay, we'll extend 9-12 for now.
9-12 to be like.
It's going to be the longest
push. No one is bad besides Dusty, is what I'm gaining from this.
Okay, L9, which for those who don't know, this was the team who went by blacklisted roster. Let me see if I can pull up the actual rosters for that real quick. Sorry, just so you know, this is messing with things. Stage 1, there we go, EMEA. And then show players. This is L9. Crisis, Jerky, Rosa, Saint Momo, Gonski, and Pin Clone for that specific roster there. But how are we feeling L9 are? Are L9 also 9-12? Are they a 13-16? I mean, are they a top 8? I've seen some people put them there.
So, if there is I think if there is a team that there's 2 teams I feel comfortable putting in the 13-16. I think L9 is probably one of the lower ones. But the reason why I have to explain, because I have friends on this roster, so I need to explain this. L9 is going through big issues in regards to their roster currently. They were made the day before, now 2 hours before roster lock for EMEA's second thing, and the entire thing, they sweep the entire thing without losing a map. Incredible. Since then, they had a deep one of their players rage quit mid scrim. One of their tanks is unavailable to scrim all week, and they can't find a sub to play. And then they're arguing over what subs to take. And about 3 hours ago, they posted in Rivals Elite saying, "Looking for a DPS player. Roster lock is tomorrow."
Luck.
So
we kind of have to put them there because it's kind of a question mark at this point.
They don't even know who. I mean, they don't even know who their roster is by the looks of it. That's not Flame. But if there is a team that you're going to put low, it's got to be the team that doesn't have their own roster. That said, the players who I do know are on it are very talented. But you can't hate the guy for saying that the team that doesn't know its roster, so hasn't practiced its roster, is probably one of the weaker ones.
Should we put them dusty tier at that point, or
no? 13
Okay.
Put no one in 13 to 16. Just
No,
avoid that tier as a whole.
okay,
they're not dusty level. They are.
Okay.
They have hands. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yoinconda, I mean, I feel like this is a decent squad. I mean, are they also in the ether tier of 9 through 12? Are they a potential top 8 squad? I mean, Hachi, you got any opinions about this team?
I mean, they got the core right from what was Fnatic previously. Again, not a team that we have scrimmed, but based from like watching some of the matches from the qualifiers from MI Open qualifiers, they played Team Pluvia and other teams, right? It's a hard one. I would probably, out of these teams, I'll probably put them top 8. Personally,
Let's go. Not in the Infinity tier.
Personally, I don't know what you think
this,
about MNT, but I'll probably put them top 8 based
Makes
on
sense. Yeah.
I think this is. I think that's it. And I think. Well, I've been thinking about it since I said it. Like, obviously, one team needs to go in top 4. I don't know what you think,
That's true.
Hachiko. I think
you want to know my honest opinion.
Yeah,
I
go.
know you won't agree with me on this, but I think it's Zero Tenacity.
Zero Tenacity in top 4?
Based from this week alone, not previously. Based from this week alone.
Can you take a screenshot of this right now so that you have that for your own rankings? Is all I'm gonna say.
Based from this week alone, I don't know what the coaches are cooking up or whoever's cooking it. Based from this week alone, if we look from past achievements and stuff, right? I think there's obviously. There's obviously, I would probably put another roster if we're looking purely based on that. But if we're looking from this week, new meta and stuff, I think the a team that's quickly adapting. I know you haven't scrimmed them with any of your teams, right? But that's just my personal experience.
I've just not seen them. No, that's the best. That's the only way to inform it. I've literally not seen them.
Yeah. I mean, that's what this is about. That's why this is kind of like a collaborative thing to see exactly once we get to like our final list that we have. And, we're still going to get torn apart regardless. Team Peps, though. Minty, you said this came from a couple different squads here. It's a new roster. We haven't seen them at all. So it's like, how is this team going to do?
Scrim a lot with 0%. They scrim a lot with 0%. And it's usually, they're a good scrim partner for us. I could see them. My opinion was what I was going to say before we put Zero Tenacity is I think if I was going to put one in top 4, I think 0% is got to be about 4th place team. But I think Peps would probably be the one I would swap to top 8, in my opinion.
Swap to top 8 and like have 0% up there with that kind of tier.
Yeah.
I can get that. Yeah.
My ideas. 0%, like they perform in officials is the main thing. Like it's odd sometimes. They will, especially at the start of season, but they're not always. They do a lot of experimenting with things with new comps, and so like early scrim results are always scrim results don't mean a lot, but they learn a lot from it. And the players are super reflective, and player-led VOD is incredibly effective for them. They have some really intelligent players. So if this is something that I've got to get my head around. If this tier list is not power, this isn't power rankings. This is where do you think like they're going to place?
Where they could place, yeah. This isn't necessarily power rankings because we haven't seen the teams face off against each other yet. So it's like we don't know what some of these squads are going to look like in current meta patch until we actually see those first round matches.
It also matters on stuff like analyst work. Who's going to do the most prep for these teams? I know the 0% analyst is incredible. He does an amazing job. So I know that they will be prepared no matter what opponent they're going into. They will know the bans in advance. They will have map strategies planned out. Like a book on what they're going to do. They'll know what strategies the opponent wants to do based off of like whatever scrims or tournaments they've seen. They'll have an idea going into it. So I know that they will be planning for that. If there is, at this point, this isn't to say I'm not confident in other teams doing that, but I know that they are capable of doing it. I see. To look at Schmungus. Is anyone going to disagree with me putting him 13 to 16? Necros is a tier 1 professional.
I think you're right with that
Necros is
one.
tier 1. That's all that matters at this point. Same for Boger as well.
They can take maps off of teams who I think underestimate them. But if you ask me what team is going to do the least prep work going into an official, obviously Schmungus. They don't even know if they're going to scrim before matches. They're currently not scrimming. I asked their manager today if they're going to scrim, and they said I don't know, basically. So I mean, if you ask me what roster I'm not expecting to do well, other than Dusty, it's got to be the one that doesn't want to do the work, right? Because they're content creators. They don't want to be professional players. I don't think. This is content. This is content for them, I think. Right?
Yeah, they made it. They're getting some cash. I think it's probably guaranteed money of some sort based on just making it into Ignite.
And do you know what?
That's
and do you know
how
what?
it goes.
Like, it's got to be that this has got to be Chungus getting in. I don't know what you guys think. Like, I was praying that Dark Monkeys would get in for you guys in NA as well. Not because I think they deserve to be not because I think they're one of the best teams, but because viewership for MRI was not so good.
Nuts.
And the viewership on Necros was getting more viewers than MRI when it was live, just playing Spider-Man. So to see Necros just all of a sudden on a team with Boga, who's another like massive creator, and KG, who's a big creator, and etc. Like those matches, their qualifier play-in games got 20k views.
That's true.
For the open qualifiers, more than 4 times the peak viewership of MRI Europe. So now that this team is, I personally hope they're in top 4 because I want all the eyes on them, because that means every other team that's there is going to have loads of viewership, right? It's a massive win that they're in. I don't think they're the team to look at in terms of performing super well, right? There's so many things in this tier list I don't know about. I don't know about
Okay. So now that we have them like in position,
it's okay. They're gonna hate you regardless.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the Minty list. No, we're kidding.
Yeah,
certified
right
Minty
now,
Fresh.
Minty's list.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put that on Twitter, certified Minty Fresh, and then just have your handle here. Go and tag this person for any disputes.
His handle, his Discord,
yeah, there
his
we go.
Twitch,
Yeah.
every way to yell at him.
Okay, do we want to like reorganize the order of any of these teams in these specific spots at all, like in terms of like top 4, top 8, 9 through 12? I think we're kind of set on like the lower end for now. Polly from Berber Patapim on YouTube at least is saying we're sleeping on L9, so it's like, okay, are we just putting everyone in 9 through 12? What's going on here?
Okay. I get the look, I've got manager L9 in my DMs right now on Discord being like, how can you put us so low? Tell me who belongs there then. Tell me who belongs in that tier. Because Hachiko's right here. Come on. I'm kidding, obviously.
Take one for the team, Hachi. Put your
No.
Well, we can be dark horses, you know. We can be dark horses.
And I think, and I said it before, I really sincerely think they obviously, I mean, OG's obviously going to have analyst staff who are working on this, and the org itself is probably going to be quite invested in making sure this team that, let's be really blunt, probably the average player probably doesn't have high expectations of this new OG roster. I know that when I've had closed door conversations, people aren't expecting that much from them. I think this is a roster that's going to do prep work, that they're going to have the staff and the support staff to go in prepared for a match, whatever's going to happen. Especially if the format is something along the lines of like loser picks. If they're going, okay, well we know that we're always going to get to pick at least 2 maps. Here are 2 maps where we have this nailed out strategy for, but we're going to do well. That's the okay. Very good.
Sorry, chat wanted that. I just had to give them their screenshot. That's all.
It's fine. But OG is the type of team to do something like that. They have the support staff. They have the resources. They probably have more resources than any other team except maybe VP, to be honest, because of the backing that they have. So they're a team that could absolutely upset. And this is not power rankings. This is how we think teams will do.
Okay, so I think for now, I'm going to make the executive decision. Sorry, Knewton. We're going to put Zero Tenacity in top 8, just based on numbers alone for that.
Going to 13.
Who out of top 8 should go to 9-12? That's the question.
Pep's or Kanda, right?
Yeah,
it's one of those two. Kanda.
Do we feel like Peps is better than Kanda? Or Kanda, I think, have like something, in my opinion.
Etsu was a world champion in Paladins and doing Kanda, and he was on OG when OG was second place in EU. And they have old 0% players who were on Fnatic who were third place MRI. They have a good majority French roster. Maybe it's Alcadzia. It's Alcadzia that moves down.
Could move out.
They've not got any.
I know a lot of people are
like
questioning this team in terms of like where exactly they'll be ranking, especially because they learned so much from scrims. But again, since so many teams are like kind of avoiding that, it's like, what can they do to really truly prepare for things?
They've not been in many officials recently either. I've not seen them in an official. The bracket that they have, and no hate to players I love Helis, I like Kaya. I think their bracket was pretty nice. They had a really nice bracket to get in. Just on, I don't know where this team is. So maybe if there's one I have to move down, it's probably. Do you agree, Hachiko? Maybe it's Alcancia. Like I just don't know where they are.
That's the tough thing. It's like, how do we know who to move down from this list in that kind of like top 8 tier? Maybe we should change it to like top 8 potential.
Nah, just do Alcad and do all business down. I think those are the two.
Okay.
From the words that have been said, just going around.
We just don't know much about all business, do we? I don't.
Just because you guys haven't seen them, like, because they could just fly up, right? Who cares?
True. That's true. So this is what we're sticking with. I want to make sure we're set.
But I also think, like, since it's right around the corner, Ignite, I think we're gonna see a lot of like upsets down the line, because I mean it's going on for what, like 3 weeks, the tournament, right? So even like a team that can look really good the first week, or really bad the first week for that sake, could look really good the next week, right? Because the meta is still going to be new for so many teams, and people are still trying stuff all the time.
You said said that really well.
So I think it will change even down the line.
Alcancia have that adapting potential, as you're talking about, with that long weeks. So I think they should be top 8 in my opinion for that. I feel like
who knows?
Your team's going down.
One of these teams got to go down. It's just so rough. Okay, chat. You know what? I'm going to put this to a poll. How do I do a poll in chat? I think it's /poll.
Oh boy, here we go.
There we go. /poll in chat. Let me make this. Who should move down to 9 through 12? So let's see our options here. So we're saying for sure Zero Tenacity and Blood Corrido are staying in top 8. Is that what we're saying here? So it's between Alcancia, Yoanconda, and Team Peps. Is that what we're agreeing to here? Or do we put all these teams in here?
Sure, just put them all.
I'll put them all. Okay, cool. We'll see what people vote for. I'll make it like a minute-long duration for that, and then we'll swap on over to Americas to close out the show for that, just so we can keep things going. This is a tough decision for us to make, so we're getting chat's opinions on it as well. I'm really curious on what they would say. I'm not allowing additional votes for channel points because that would be too much. I'll just put QAD for Alcancia, and then Yoanconda, and then Team Peps. Do a minute for this poll. Who should move down to 9 through 12? Let us know in chat. The poll is up on Twitch if you're watching on YouTube. Who is chat going to decide moves down to 9 through 12? Let's see what the updates are so far. Team Peps has 6 votes so far. Zero Tenacity has 2. 10 votes for Team Peps. Okay, not much faith in the Frenchman over there is what I'm seeing here. For the most part, Team Peps are the overwhelming favorites to move down to 9 through 12. 17, 19, almost 20 people in the chat. We have about like 70 or so viewers on Twitch currently for this, for those listening back to this later. So right now, it looks like it's going to be Team Peps unless there is a rally behind another team out here. So Team Peps moving down officially. Yeah, they got 20 votes. So yeah, they will be moving down officially to that 9 through 12 spot. So I'm going to do this as well for the 9 through 12 to 13 to 16 to make it easy as well on which team should move down to that side. No one voted for Yoanconda. So, that's good for them. All right, one person did actually. One person did. 21 people voted for Team Peps. So Team Peps, if you're watching this later, if you see this out there, it's not on us, it's on chat.
It's just all of their players just voting for themselves to go down.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny.
Keep expectations low, it's perfect.
Exactly, yeah. See, that's what it is. Chat is doubting you guys. Marvel Rivals Esports scene is doubting you guys at that point. So, we'll see. We'll see. So we'll do another poll for who should move down to 13 and to 16 on this one. So.
Oh, Larry's in chat. Larry W, my goat. Oh no, I'm so sorry. He plays for Peps. Oh.
So Peps is staying in 9 through 12. We're keeping that there. So we got OG, we got FYR. Is it Fear? Is that how you pronounce it?
I think the company that owns me is Campfire. It's spelled FYR, but I've always called it like Fear Strayers, but I think it's meant to be like Fire Strayers.
Fire Strayers. Gotcha. All right. Business. Okay,
it's
so
like
we got
Eris or Iris.
4 people or 4 teams that can move down. We're doing another minute. OG Fire, First Rays, Insomnia, and All Business. Which of those teams does chat think will move down here? We're not putting as for Peps again. Oh man, I mean we already did enough with moving them down to 9 through 12, so we got to give them a little bit of a breather there. But so
Right.
far,
Put him in Dusty tier.
it's a decent race here. I'm sorry on this one, Hachi. The chat is kind of going against you right now. Hey, it's better for them to doubt you, but they are saying
exactly doubt us, then we have to get up, right?
it's between them and Fire Strays right now, 14-8 currently in the votes. None for Insomnia. People are saying Insomnia is, pretty goated, at least
Insomnia's
from these
pretty
votes so
good.
far. Yeah.
Insomnia is actually they're pretty good. Yeah, like they have a lot of old EXO players on them. Seidro is pretty good. They're a pretty good roster actually. It's annoying because someone has to be in these low tiers, but these are all good teams.
Yeah.
And I know I've said it, and I'll say it again, but like any of these lists could be flipped on their heads. Groups will actually change how these work like drastically.
Oh yeah,
based on
groups
who
is going to
gets
change
voted.
exactly how this, and that's why this is kind of like potential placement based on like whatever. We don't know the teams, we don't know the groups for how things are going to go there. Change from Dusty tier to Peps tier, man, that's savage. But unfortunately, Hachi, the chat has spoken. OG have been sent down into 13-16. We'll see if they stick in that tier, if you guys are going to have a great performance from then on out. But yeah, we'll be talking about Valhalla League just to end the show, about the schedule and the teams that are competing in that. I'll bring up the announcement I think they put on Twitter for that as well, because some good teams playing in that too. But this is our official, in quotation marks, tier list that we also made with chat for Rivals and Rants for EMEA predictions ahead of not knowing groups. We don't know anything else in terms of where these teams are going to be seated group wise, anything of that sort. But this is what we have so far. VP at the top. Then it goes Team 1, Berber Patapim, for those who don't know. 0% after that. Then Zero Tenacity in the top 8. Blood Corrido, QAD or Alcacia, and Yoinkanda. Then in the 9 through 12, we have Team Peps, Fire Strays, Insomnia, GG, and All Business. And 13-16, we have OG Seed, L9, and Schmungus. And then we have Dusty Tier at the bottom of it there. So we'll try and compare both regions afterwards in our own like heads. I don't have a tier list built out for that. I'm kind of going to save that till next week potentially, or just like partway through when we get to the mid-season specifically for that. But let's move on over to the NA side of things. Hopefully you guys got your screenshots. I'll screenshot my thing later for that as well. But we got NA. So is there a specific secondary tier that we need to make here, Alfie, for any teams out there? Or is it just top 4, top 8, 9 through 12, and 13,
Nah,
16?
I think this will work. I'm pretty sure NA is
Okay.
It's a lot closer. I mean, Fight Night kind of shows that, where it's just
Yeah.
teams beating each other back and forth, whereas in EU it's just like VP for 11 weeks now. So
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go through the teams that don't have logos, that don't have orgs. So we have Alani Win, which is Chalkit, Ego Def, Jobless Bums, and Techie XD. Where do we feel these teams are, Alfie?
So Alani Wind or Chalked It. Let's put them in 13-16 for now.
Okay. Ego Def?
And Ego Death. I have to like remember all these rosters because the names are different.
Let me see if I can bring up the roster real quick for America's.
I have it too.
Just for people
Ego
that are
Death
also wondering
probably
who these are.
also in
There
that
we go.
13-16, I would say.
This is the Ego Def roster for those who don't know. So 13-16 for Ego Def. Gotcha.
Jobless Bums. I think I'll also put them there.
Okay.
And Techie XD, I think, is 9 through 12.
9 through 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I gotta know, Alfie, who do you think is that other team then that's in the 13 and 16 tier?
I think it has to go to Nightmare.
Nightmare?
Eris was a
Ooh.
great roster. It was a team that my team feared for a long time. They lost a lot of their power pieces. I think Ice was a really good shield tank player. Right now, they have Pro Gamer and Pancake. And no offense to either of those guys, but Pro Gamer is pretty much like a flex tank. He plays main tanks. He's a really good Hulk player, really good Venom player. He's now the shield tank for their team. So he's great at it, right? Shield tank isn't like the most difficult role in the world, but they basically have 2 main tank players. And then they also lost Lorenz, or Cutla, as some people know him, who I think was one of their better players, and Ice, who moved on to, I believe, which team did he move to? Alani Wind. So I think they're probably towards the lower end of that. I think the other 3 teams could push up to 9 to 12, but for me, I think that's the one team that's solidified down there.
I gotcha. Yeah, they've had some roster trouble recently. They've had some pickups here and there as well. I saw recently, I think they had a new DPS player that they picked up for Nightmare as well.
Yeah, and they lost one of their supports to some drama,
Drama. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Since you know the Shikigami roster, we can't talk about who they are yet because they haven't fully announced. Where does this new Shikigami roster fare, do you think?
They're one of the teams that can push top 8, but I think for now I'm gonna put them 9 to 12.
9 to 12? Okay.
I think I don't know if they have a coach. I'm not certain. I think if they get good management, then have a good ban cycle and everything go, they'll be looking way better.
Oh, one sec. Can you guys still see us? Okay. I think it was on our end that we can't see things, but you guys can still see the stream. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they can still see and hear us. Type 1 if you can't hear us, though, chat. Just making sure. I think I still see us on it, though. But yeah, I think we're fine on that end. Okay, they can still see and hear us. It's just on our end that they can't as well. Sweet. Okay, we'll keep going.
Blind.
Yeah, we're going blind. But right now, for us that can't see things on our end, we have Techie XD and Shikigami 9 through 12, Alani Win, Ego Def, Jobless Bums, and Nightmare. No specific order on this one, by the way, on the end there, but we'll see how the rest of these teams fare afterwards. Okay, let's see. Who else should we start with afterwards? Let's go with your team, Alfie, Luminosity. Where do you feel like you guys rank?
I would say my team is probably one of the more volatile ones. Okay. We have taken games off good teams, and then we'll also get owned by, some worse teams. So I would say right now top 8. With an asterisk of could push out 4 and could also fall to 9 through 12. It really just depends on how we're feeling. I feel a lot more confident with our new coach coming in. He's helped us a lot in just a short amount of time. We've only had 1 scrim with him, and in that 1 scrim, it felt like everyone was just more connected and on the same page. So I think that will definitely help us moving forward. But for now, top 8.
Okay, Minty. I'm going to go to you on this one. Any specific teams that you think really stick out to you in terms of scrims that you are feeling very confident of where they would rank against the other teams?
Dark Zero. So we've scrimmed Dark Zero, the Magnets roster, and I don't know if they were in a rough patch or what was going on. But
Be careful, Hogs is in chat.
Yeah, they wasn't. I think it was before they picked up Hogs, to be fair. It was when they were still Magnets. And I was amazed that they were a top NA team in the scrim that we saw. That said, I've seen stuff since then, and they do not look like the same roster that we scrimmed.
A good
what
way?
I've seen, in a really great way. They look like they've improved a ton, which is great. Which is great to see because I'm really good friends with Milani as well, who's the manager. I'm gutted because Ignite's come out on days where we had a scrim booked and we have to cancel it now. I think Dark Zero would be probably either top of 9 to 12 or bottom of top 8.
Okay.
Right now.
I'll keep them top 8 for now.
I completely agree with that as well. It's like they're a team that could definitely push as they get more scrim hours in and get more reps, because I think I agree with you. Like, they've been changing their roster like crazy over the last couple of weeks. So now that they've locked it in, I'm sure they're going to improve like crazy.
Hope so. Their coach is good. I've heard their coach is really good as well, so makes sense. I've heard that your new coach is really good as well, Alfie.
Yeah.
And he says hello to Hachiko, by the way.
Hello.
He's in my DMs messaging me. Amazing.
Shout out to the players.
Amazing. Is that announced yet? Can I say who it is?
Yeah,
I don't think it has been announced.
We can announce it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, there we go.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with announcing it. He's officially locked in, according to Steven. Hopefully Steven doesn't yell at me.
Amazing. Well, we heard it here first. He told me it wasn't announced. So I just wasn't sure if he was just being cooked.
LG hasn't announced it on their thing, but I don't know if they even
It's
like
next
they still
week
have...
that Ignite starts, so we kind of know in the scene like who these people are. So just so you could say it clear, because I don't think people might have heard it myself as well. Who is the new coach for Luminosity?
We currently have Cynic as a coach and Zhu, I think it's like a French name. So
I know both of these guys.
Both these guys, but he's a great analyst. Yeah, they're both EU players. They were what were they for? EXO?
Oblivion. That's right. So
yeah.
I've got the law. If I can give the law,
Go for it, bro.
Yeah. So these guys both were EX Oblivion. Cynic specifically is was new to EXO. He joined about a week. Maybe you probably know better than I do, Hachikobtw timeline. Maybe a week or two before Ignite.
I think 1 or 2 weeks before Ignite. I think he started with EXO. Probably a week. Yeah.
About a week before. Joined with those guys, and I saw some stuff, and he did a lot of work. Now, anyway, he was pretty confident in EXO qualifying because they were a pretty good team and probably one of the better teams there. Definitely better than some of the teams who qualified. I'm not going to name names. So he did well with them. And Ju was managing them since season 0, I think. Ju's been with them since the start of EXO Marvel Rivals. And obviously also with Eris, whatever, in the US, in North America. Ju does a lot of analyst work and he's looking to start. And I think he's starting as assistant coach for you guys now, right?
Yeah, assistant coach, analyst. He's going to be basically our data analyst, I think, overall, helping us.
So
helping
important to have
mainly
one of
Cynic,
those.
I would imagine. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, we went from a pretty solid coach, like Wildcard was our old coach, and I personally loved him, but he is a very soft-spoken guy, which is great for some teams, and then for our team, we basically just need a football coach to yell at us and
shout at you,
throw demands in our face. And Wildcard was not going to be that guy, and that's no hate towards him. I think he'd fit perfectly on a team that's like more mellow. Our team is very emotionally high, and there's some high,
like
some
most
big
NA
personalities, self-included, where it's like we just need to be controlled and calm down and understand our jobs. And I think Cynic did a superb job at making it very clear for each player, like, this is your job, this is your job. I want you to communicate this, just in the small amount of time we've had him. So I greatly appreciate him for that.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear. Huge announcements. I'm sure they'll be posted on Twitter as well. Shout out to all the staff that's involved in making a team be as competitive as it can be, because Marvel Rivals is not easy when it comes to the drafting stage, preparing for things, and the meta shifting. Like, it's going to be every month now, because once it gets to season 3, I think it was, they said they're going to have a hero dropping every single month, which is crazy to keep up with on a professional level while all these events are going on. So biggest shout out to them. But we still have so many more teams to rank. Let's start with Solaris. So they took down a Rival 7. People, said could be an upset, could not be an upset. Where do we feel like this team, Alfie, kind of ranks?
This team is probably the most dynamic team on this list. They play some wild stuff. Like in scrims, they were running some Penny Parker. Both Guru and Gilbert will just randomly swap to Wolverine if the time arises. And you're just not ready for it, right? So I think they could catch a lot of strong teams off guard that are just used to teams like locking a comp and playing that comp for the game. They swap like crazy. So I would say top 8. I don't think their crazy playstyle can really beat those top 4 teams that will get down the list, but they can definitely just hardcore own some of these lower squads and kind of take games off the higher squads just based on their hero pool alone. They just can't really be banned out.
So where specifically are we putting them? Top
8,
9 through 12? Top 8. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I think top 8.
Top 8. Gotcha. There's going to be a lot of people, I feel like, around the top 8 level in NA. There's so much competition with that going on. Okay. 100 Thieves. Top 4?
I would say, yeah, top 4.
Yeah, that one's probably like
roster.
one of the easier one. Yeah. Envy
just like
top
Virtus
4
Pro.
probably too.
Yep. We can clear out the top 4 if you really wanted to.
Yeah, let's do that.
And
okay.
just do Flag West and Sentinels up there, I would say.
Gotcha.
It's pretty cut and dry in my opinion. I think it's not a huge gap between those top 4 and the bottom, but it's like, 2 to 5% depending on the teams. And that's just enough. It's going to take months to gain that percentage that you need.
Okay. We'll leave Shroud X because I feel like they're in a weird spot for a lot of people. Nemesis, old Shikigami. Where are we feeling they're at?
Nemesis is definitely top 8. They're a team that have proven time and time again that they can take games off of some of the top rosters in NA. I wouldn't be surprised if they could compete with a lot of top EU teams. Probably not Virtus Pro, because obviously they're the GOATs, but
True.
I would say out of the top 8 that we have currently listed, they're towards the top end. Like if we were to order that completely, I would say they're like number 5, in my opinion.
Gotcha. So kind of like this, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. We can adjust it more as we finish it out.
Citadel. This was the old Boom Crew squad, I believe, that made it through.
If it were up to me, I think the 4 teams that could really shift between these two is Dark Zero, Solaris, Citadel, and Shroud X, depending on how well they adapt to this new meta and the current week of play that they're in. So I would, if it was my list, I would move Dark Zero down to 9 to 12, and I'd put Citadel in top 8.
Do we want to leave it up to a chat vote for those 3 teams then?
Sure.
For these 4 teams?
Yeah, you could do those 4 teams and throw it in.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so chat, this is your moment. You get to decide what our 9 through 12 is going to be to these teams. We're going to do 2 different polls. So we'll start with the highest moves down and then the highest moves down again for these. So who out of Dark Zero, Solaris, Citadel, and Shroud X?
I hope you know
Go
because
down.
you're here, Alfie. They're all going to vote LG just to see you get wound up. I hope.
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Send me
guess
down,
we
bro.
should include LG in there as well. We'll include LG to make it fair.
I would not be surprised if we're the ones to move down.
You know,
I could
yeah,
totally see it.
we'll see. Because that's what happened with OG on the
Yeah, me
EU
and
side
Hutch
of
on the
things.
same
So,
boat.
yeah, exactly. So who should be 9 through 12? And then we'll do 2 of these because, of course, we got to move 2 teams down to there specifically in that tier. So we have Luminosity, so I'll just put LG. Easy for that one. DZ for Dark Zero. Then we have Solaris. We have Citadel. And we have Shroud X. Okay, well, I'm going to put this one to 2 minutes because I feel like we need a little bit more time for this. So who should move down out of these teams into the 9 through 12 for Americas in terms of placement? Let's see exactly what the looks are so far. We got LG at 3, at 7 actually. Dark Zero at 2.
Go, we're winning, baby.
Shroud X
Send us
at
down.
1 in terms of moving down here. It's actually kind of going back and forth between LG and Dark Zero. It's 8 and 4 currently. Well, Shroud X is 3. So Solaris and Citadel, most people are keeping them at top 8 so far in terms of their rankings. So shout out to that. But right now, with the way things are looking, LG, you cursed it out.
Hey man, I'm ready for the power
LG.
bottom roll. Send me down.
Be the team that's doubted. That's what we want to see. So right
More
now,
fun to win that way, No one expects it.
Exactly. We're gonna lose our feed here for a second, just so you guys know on our side, but stream will still be able to see it. Just because production stuff on the back end. But even then, LG, I think it's pretty much a lock that they will be the first team moving down to 9 through 12. We're gonna do another poll here once this one ends out. I don't think I can do like end poll. I can't end it, so I'll just run its course. I'll just make another one just to see, because it was a little close between Dark Zero and Shroud X specifically for moving down. So I'm just going to put those 2 because we didn't get any votes for the other 2 teams of Solaris and Citadel. So out of Dark Zero and out of Shroud X, who do we think is going to be that NA team? You want me to put Citadel? Okay, I'll put Citadel in there. I'll put them in. I'll just take Luminosity out. We'll keep it an even playing field. Because, that's true. Some people who voted for LG might have voted for those others. That's valid. So we'll put Solaris, we'll put Citadel, put Dark Zero and Shroud X in at this next poll. It's about to end here for this. I probably should have just done a minute. I think that's what I'll do for the next one. Top 10 can low-key throw hands of everyone. Yeah, that's how I feel as well, Hogs. I mean, NA is super competitive in like the middle regions. Top end is a little bit closer in terms of like where we expect for that, but in that middle area, the fight for top 8 is going to be insane. If it's a top cut in like 4 groups of 4 is what we're thinking it's probably going to be. But yeah, there's a lot of potential for these teams out there. So who should move down to 9 through 12? So we have DZ for Dark Zero. We have Solaris. We have Citadel. And we have Shroud X. Let's see who you guys think for this one. Doing just a minute on the poll. It has started. If you are in the chat on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, just go over to twitch.tv/Vodible for it as well. Right now, 8 votes for Shroud X, 10 votes for them. Only one for Citadel, Dark Zero, and Solaris so far. So with the way things are going, looks like Shroud X is that team that's moving down in the rankings. Maybe there'll be a comeback for another one. Yeah, just in their own tournament results wise. Yeah, I mean that's
like they hosted a tournament with a completely new rule set But surely, like, if you're planning a summit, it's good for your team, and your team's prepping for it. And they didn't win. Did they win a single map?
They didn't win a single map.
no.
I don't think. No.
So
They did have one of the harder runs to give them a little bit better.
Valid.
But yeah, it was funny to have them not win even a map.
Yeah, so it looks like it is confirmed. ShroudX moving down here as well. So 14 people for ShroudX, 2 for Dark Zero, 1 for Solaris, and 1 for Citadel on the poll there. Do we think we need to reorder any of these rosters here specifically for the rankings, Alfie?
If you wanted to do top 4, I think Envy, FlyQuest, Sentinels, 100 Thieves would be my order. I think Envy, I mean, they really should have the advantage because they're all in a team house now.
Valid.
And I would imagine if they're in a team house, I won't leak the salaries, but they're probably getting paid a good amount to play this game. So now it's like their full-time thing. And I think for all 4 of those teams, it's either like their full-time job to play or
pretty much
a majority of their life to put in time into this game. So I think Envy is definitely number 1. The next 3 are very close, but I think FlyQuest, especially with their coaching staff, picking up Fox, because Fox and Yoki, I don't know if you've really talked to Yoki before, if anyone here has.
Yeah, I know Yoki from the Omega Strikers.
They complement
team,
each other so well. Like Yoki is the quantum mechanics, like theory crafter. He's going into all that kind of stuff. And then Fox is like, you guys just suck, by the way. Let's fix this. And I think that's
awesome.
just like you have both sides of the spectrum for coaches. So it's perfect. And then
I
Sentinels.
think that might have been a leak here, by the way, Alfie. I don't think it's been fully announced on that. So
whoops.
Just scrub that from your memory, everyone. I'm not going to post that announcement on Twitter. That'll just be for the people who watch the VOD later on it as well. But either way, congrats to Fox for that pickup. That's huge for him. I know he was looking for a different team after, I think it was, Shikigami that he helped foster before for that as well. Send bench over Envy. Ooh, getting spicy in here. I mean, 100 Thieves, I mean, do we think they're below Sentinels right now? I feel like Sentinels have kind of had some struggles recently too, though, in terms of like recent results.
I think if anything, they're basically tied in my mind. I think you could probably put 100 Thieves over them either way. Yeah. I'm not confident in either direction. Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Top 8, though. So you said Nemesis is basically 5. Dark Zero probably 6 here. Then what about Solaris and Citadel?
I would say Citadel is probably over Dark Zero, especially going off the vote system.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think Solaris is number 8 because I would say if anyone, like, they don't really take it as seriously. They are a great team. Like, they're all great individuals, but I know they're more of a for fun, like, chill roster. Just talking to, like, Valentina, who played with them. That was her main issue, is that they weren't grinding as hard as she wanted. And that's
true.
You know, some players want to just have fun and it can work. You know, if all 6 of you want to just have a good time, it's good synergy.
Another like team content, right? It's like Solaris.
Yeah, I would say I don't think they're fully as bad as Shmungus or whatever their roster is, where it's just like Shmungus is just a content team. I think Solaris, they're gonna definitely take it seriously and try and win, but they also have the content, so they're not full focused on just winning. I would imagine.
9 through 12. What we feeling about here?
I think that looks good. Maybe like Techie XD or Shiki could flip, kind of like 100 Thieves and Sentinels, but we'll go with the voting and put us in 10th and then ShroudX in 9th. I think that's valid.
Okay. 13 through 16. This is what's spicy right now. What are we feeling with this?
Oh, let's see. Let's see. So we have, just making sure I got all the rosters right.
Yeah.
I think Alani wins, then Ego Death, then Jobless Bums and Nightmare. Yeah, I think
Nightmare
that's
16th.
Yeah, I love their players. I coached one of Pancake's teams for a little bit, and Gamer was obviously on LG, and I would love to play with them again if the stars align. But from what I've heard and from what I've seen, they're just not the greatest right now. And who's to say? Like, my team was pretty bad for a while. I could see that too. I could totally see the argument. I think Alani could easily move up to 9 to 12.
Well,
maybe
do that because Shiki's roster hasn't been announced yet, so it feels kind of like
true. Yeah.
And I feel like Alani Win should have qualified in that first qualifier as well. Over, I think it was Jobless Bums that they faced during that too. But you know, people have rough matches all the time too on that. And yeah, Alani has had some good results there too. Jobless over Ego. Could see that.
Yeah, I could see it either way. I think both those teams are pretty equal. I think it really, like, in my personal opinion, a lot of how these teams will play comes down to coaches, management, analysts, because everyone on these teams could be a top player. Like,
That's true.
Could be rank 1. But some players need more help than others, right? Like, I personally don't really come from an Overwatch background. So if I get good coaching, then I could perform more. If I got bad coaching, then I'm going to suck as compared to some of these players that have a lot more experience, like years and years of time put into OW.
Makes sense. Well, here is our final list that we have here for America's Envy, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, Sentinels, Team Nemesis, Citadel Gaming, Dark Zero, Solaris, ShroudX, Luminosity, Techie XD, not the player, but the team, Alani Wins or Chalked It. And then we have Shikigami's new roster that they haven't announced yet. Jobless Bums, Ego Def, and Nightmare. Of course, things can change here. We don't know the groups yet, things of that sort. But again, matches do start next week. Want a quick question from you, Minty, on this one specifically, but we'll do a full breakdown of it later. So, Envy, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, and Sentinels versus VP, Team 1, Berber Patapim, and Team 0%. Where are we feeling that these teams are ranking?
I think VP is best in the world.
Okay, I get that.
Is that controversial?
No, I don't think it's controversial.
We're doing a global list now. Sorry, I wasn't.
Yeah. Like we don't have I don't have a list built, but this is just kind of like where we're feeling vibes wise between both regions' top 4.
Yeah, I think we can agree, Virtus Pro.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, now Berber is really like hit and miss. No, they're not hit and miss. They're as I said, they're inconsistent, very explosive. If there was a team that I would expect to beat VP, it would be them. But they also that means that they could beat Envy, but it also means that they could get 3-0'd by Envy. So I have no idea where I'd put them in this list. I think that Team 1 though is probably a very similar level to those top NA teams, because I think those top NA teams are all pretty close.
Yeah,
and I think you could pretty much have any order of like. I think Team 1 are pretty solidly mixed. You could put Team 1 anywhere in that top 4 currently, and I don't think it would feel out of place. Maybe above Sentinels, below 100 Thieves if you were ranking them.
Okay, I could get that.
Yeah. And then I think that 0% is as much as I hate to say, I think probably would be the weakest of the top 8. But I think they would still be, I still think they'd take maps. I do believe, maybe, who do you think is weakest of those top 4 NA teams? Maybe FlyQuest or Sentinels?
Tough, because it really just depends on like what the team is that they're facing off against, right? In terms of like preparation, Envy's looked really good recently in NA. Like I think they're undisputably right now at least the number 1 squad from what I've heard in NA, so like they would be closer to a VP level for NA. FlyQuest, I mean, they've had their issues here and there depending on like if they have subs in for the roster and depending on like if their main composition is banned. I mean, like right now they're saying they're doing really good, so I think if anyone, unfortunately for Sentinels, they just had like a rough patch recently, so they're probably towards like the lower end of those teams.
I agree. I think Sentinels is probably. I wasn't sure on FlyQuest. Sentinels, I think, is probably towards that lower end. 100 Thieves is probably the second best in NA right now. Still.
Yeah, people are arguing that they're like the second best, and then kind of like FlyQuest after that. Yeah, it's like interchangeable between them.
Yeah, I think it's like Envy just a little bit above, and then those 3 you could argue just Friday, Saturday, Sunday they all win the game against each other.
I heard that. I was pretty sure Envy was the top, but yeah, that makes sense. Which is weird because they kind of came out of nowhere. They won a fight night once, and then next thing I know, everyone's talking about them. Kind of feels like that came out of nowhere.
No, it was mainly the roster changes, right? It was
really?
I think they had some weaknesses, and they just erased them, like completely removed them. Okay.
But I think you could put. I don't know where you put Berber. Could be anywhere in that list. because they're so they could beat VP in full sincerity in an official. If there was a team to do it, that would be my money would go to Berber. But they could also like lose to 0. They could also lose to 0%. Like they almost lost to Bloodcryer. They've lost to Map 2 Limulu. Like so I don't know. Maybe I think it's those 2 probably 7 and 8, whichever order you want. And
I can
top
see that.
6 team VP at the top, and then Team 1 probably between 100 Thieves and Sentinels.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that too, and then kind of like the rest afterwards. For
either order,
Berber.
0% and Berber, but 7 and 8 for those two. I don't know which order you'd put them. Depends on the day for Berber. But Berber also could be number 2, so who knows? Whatever.
No, it's so hard to like really know until we see that actual matchup, and who knows, like we could see upsets happen where different teams move up and other teams move down in both of these lists depending on like how certain matches go. I mean, like specifically talking about it, FlyQuest lost to Magnets in MRC, which is now Dark Zero, so like we could see more upsets like that happen in the bracket if a team isn't as prepared as it could be, or if their main character that they've been doing really well with recently gets auto banned from the start, you know. Yeah. So,
or even like, I know we've not spoke about it a lot. LAN changes so much, like depending on where LAN is, etc. It changes everything. If you send these EU teams to NA and they're playing in like 30-degree heat in certain states or something like that, like I live in England, it's like maybe 7 degrees is normal for me. In North America right now, in certain parts of NA, it's like 40. Like if you send me over there, I'm not going to play well because I'm just not even going to be able to like adjust remotely to the temperature and stuff like that. Like LAN will change everything. Some teams might be jet lagged or not adjusting well to like new environment or time zone.
Even food, really, depending on the culture
even
you
diet.
go to.
I know it sounds. If we go to China, I have no idea what I'd eat in China, right? Like,
right? Like, I guess I'm eating noodles, guys. Like,
like it might be. Well, I mean,
gotta play it safe.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess like.
I don't know if I would try like street food or something. Like that's a
probably good still.
That's
though.
a coin flip if your stomach can. Oh, I'm sure it's great, but like the like gut biome stuff where you just go to a different culture.
That's very true. Yeah.
Even though the food is probably fantastic, it's like your gut might just not be used to the spice.
Even going from America to Europe, it's so different as well, just because of like all the pesticides and all the chemicals that are in like American food and everything. Yeah,
like
got that red 40
cheese. Yeah.
Okay, but I think we're pretty set on our tier list that we have for EMEA. This is what it is. If you guys didn't see it before, take a screenshot, do whatever you want. I'll be posting it on Twitter later. And then we have Americas here as well. We didn't do ones for the other regions because, again, don't know those regions as well. Still need to see exactly how they fare against the other squads out there. But again, I mean, this has been a great tier list that we've had so far. I know, Jesse, you can take down the screen share for now. Just bring it back to us if you can. There is a schedule that's kind of out there. I can't like actually like show you guys what it is, but essentially the matches for all the regions pretty much start next week on the 12th on Thursday, and then it kind of goes for like 3 weeks of competition. Eventually you get to the playoffs. There's only 2 weeks though. Actually OCE only plays 1 week of group stage, then the second week is their stage 1 playoffs, which is interesting. For Asia, their stage 1 playoffs is in the 3rd week, and then China, their stage 1 playoffs is after MRC season 2, like in the middle of July. So I'm assuming mid-season is probably going to be end of July from what I've seen for that, just based on the scheduling between all these teams. Playoffs is going to be interesting too for a lot of these squads on exactly like when that is going to be, because some of it's not fully scheduled yet. I know they have like last week of June is probably when we'll see the stage 1 playoffs for Americas and EMEA, so that's going to be interesting to watch that too. But basically 2 weeks of group stage, then a week of playoffs, and then you have MRC season 2 finals at the beginning of July, and then probably after that is when they'll do like mid-season, depending on what specific week, if it's going to be a LAN, if it's going to be in studio. We don't know the full details yet on that specific schedule, but I mean, talking about this pushback here before we kind of end things off, I mean, Minty, in terms of like planning things for teams, it's got to be a like nerve-wracking knowing, oh yeah, we had 2 weeks where this got announced, then we had to prepare, make these teams, all these roster lock-in dates, and org lock is apparently tomorrow, and there's a lot of teams without orgs for the first stage at least of Ignite, and there's so much going on in the back end.
It's awful, mate. It's awful. To be honest, the lack of transparency has been really killer for us. I'm really thankfully I've got some really good friends who've invited teams, but unfortunately all that's done is mean that it's even more apparent how terrible communication's been, because they also know nothing despite knowing they were going to be in this competition, some of them for 2 months now, which is it's absolute insanity. But I can say I said today, I said before the show started, there was an incident today where we went to, I got a message from a NetEase rep that effectively read, we're not going to give any financial support to teams going to LAN, which we all interpreted as they're not going to pay for us to go to LAN. We can't afford, some teams aren't going to be able to go because they won't be able to afford it. it seems like it was an error in translation, and because they later clarified that they'll something to do with sponsoring teams, and they'll basically reimburse flights, and you still have to pay for it yourself, but they'll give you money back for flights and hotels.
Much better.
Which is a lot better than what they initially said.
Yeah.
I showed you those messages before, and it wasn't looking good. But even like, but I mean, I don't want to drop anyone in it. Managers for orgs who were invited, like, or bear in mind, there's only about 4 in EU, weren't like, oh, we know otherwise. They were acting like they had heard it for the first time from us, from me. So, in terms of planning it, no one knows anything. Every assumption everything we're working off is assumptions, guesswork, and inferences right now. And if anyone from NetEase is watching, I really hope you tell us something, because we just got the schedule today for what these games are going to look like. We still don't know who's in our groups. We still don't know how many people are in a group. We don't know who's going to LAN. We don't know where LAN is. We don't know what the price split's going to be. We don't know what format groups is going to be. If they're best of 1 games, best of 3 games, best of 7.
Please be at least
we have
best
no idea.
of 3 is all
we don't even know. We don't even know what comp map pool we're going to be doing. We know it's going to be the new ban system. We don't know if it's going to be comp map pool. We don't know if there's going to be like a change to a comp map pool anytime soon, or if it's going to be all maps. So we don't know if we have to start practicing the Yggdrasil domination map again, because I've not played
Royal Palace and Shin Shibuya make a return.
Not played them in months. If they're in the pool suddenly, then like my teams have to start practicing those again.
MRC starts this weekend too, is the crazy thing as well. So like there could be changes that happen like there.
And what's actually going to happen? And let's be completely real. They've said there's an org lock that's dated as the deadline is 0506. Are you actually telling me if G2 Esports knock on my door on 0606 and say we want to give you $1 million per player and we will bring loads of viewership to the thing, the NetEase are going to say nope, absolutely not. The deadline was yesterday. Go away, G2 Esports. I don't want to hear it.
Probably not.
It just doesn't sound like a real thing that anyone would say, right?
It's tough on that end too, and I feel like maybe the best way to do it would be like, hey, you know, maybe for the group stage we can't do it, but if this team makes it to the playoffs or mid-season, then be like, hey, then they can represent for this specific stage of it. I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can do it from a tournament organizer standpoint on that end. I know there is a necessity to have things locked in by a certain date. Usually it's, I'd say, the same week that you typically see a lot of stuff locked in terms of like registration. Coming from like a TO background, that's usually like on a Monday. If the event's on like a Friday that it starts, you usually see Monday be when registration closes for things of that sort.
Even this Vodible, there's not even one standard form that's gone out to teams. There's 2 forms. Some teams have been asked for different information to others in the same region with the same qualifier. They've said there's 2 templates for forms. Some of them none of my teams were asked for like real names or date of birth. Some were. We didn't get asked for like the information they've asked my teams is different to what they've asked other managers. How I don't understand. I don't understand how it's possible, how it's meant to work. I don't understand. And they've made. Sorry, I'm baffled. They've made like, instead of the common sense. This is what Overwatch did. With like their top teams, they would add the managers to a Discord server and they communicate directly through there. A private server of just them in that they could basically just put aside. They could flag it as whatever. They could have notifications on because any notification from there is important. That makes so much sense, right? What they've done for Marvel Rivals, you know what they've done? They've given us a role in the 1 million people in it Marvel Rivals server where there's 1 million people in, and they've added a channel that's not in the channel list that has announcements in. That how are we meant to find this stuff? If it wasn't for the manager of Dark Zero messaging it to me, I would never have even known that this was there. How was I meant to find that? It's the whole the way that they are, and I appreciate some of them. It's those lapse in communication. I don't think most of the people we're speaking to are English as their first language. I think I'm pretty sure the main native rep I've been speaking to lives in China, speaks Chinese, and is using Google Translate. So respect.
It's a tough spot for sure, and I think a lot of it comes down to as well. I mean, most of the NetEase like competitive team outside of Marvel Rivals is working on, I think it is the Fragpunk World Clash this weekend, like the LAN event that's going on in China for that game where they're inviting all these people out. And there's a lot of logistics and probably people that have the like saying power for the decisions are at that event. So usually when you see organizations fragmented in that way, no pun intended, of course, you see breakdowns in communication like this, and it's just poor timing. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw things push back by a week is because of that.
this should have been planned. But this is a $3 million tournament. We're acting like they're planning it like yesterday. We're acting like they were planning it this week.
I will say, from a TO's perspective, there are a lot of events that end up popping out of nowhere in like a week's time. It is insane how many events have that happen. That you just get the go ahead like then, and you have to go the next day to get stuff set up and figure out, okay, what are we doing format wise? What are we doing this wise? It shouldn't be that way at all. Pre-production saves productions all the time.
I agree.
The headache and everything else, but it's how things have been going in esports, and I think that's more of a systemic problem than anything else.
And Mr. Vodible, what was the prize pool for those tournaments you're talking about? What's the prize pool for those? Because I'm a bit curious if they were anywhere near $3 million US.
I will say for RLCS, at least, when they were changing over from, I think it was EFG to Blast specifically. This is all what I've heard. This is not from an official standpoint. Just have to specify there for Blast. Is that they basically had a week where they figured out that they were the ones doing Blast. Figured out they were the ones doing the main league for Rocket League, and they had to scramble and get things going for production the next 2 weekends later. So there are some timelines that happen like that, and EFG, since they're the ones that are confirmed helping at least in the admin side of things, what we saw with them being in the lobbies, they're running EWC during this. They are just finished DreamHack for one of their events. They have, yes, a bigger team, but also a lot of the team is also fragmented with EWC going on, being like the big thing that they're focused on as well. So they probably have people doing multiple different roles while also doing this stuff too, and helping advise with NetEase, and also doing Overwatch as well. So it's there's too many people wearing too many hats, and they need to expand and, train people up to help in these positions so that they don't find themselves in these odd spots like they are currently. So hopefully we do see more stability down the line, and we will, once they get through this hurdle. It's just this is such an awkward period for them that they realized, probably the higher ups are we should put this event on. The orgs are wanting these things. We don't want the orgs to completely leave our scene and have things go bad. So let's get this going. And then they're kind of scrambling, trying to figure out where they're going while they're driving on a road at night. It's kind of the analogy for it.
It's just the whole situation's just our situation, I think, is just an absolute mess. I just can't believe it's got to this point where we were meant to start tomorrow. Is it tomorrow if we were meant to start?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to start tomorrow. Yeah. Today for EMEA specifically.
And orgs don't even know what, some orgs just got asked to submit today the first information. I'm sure that there is orgs teams who haven't submitted the information on time.
Yeah.
Especially with all the stuff we had to do. We just got ours yesterday, and my team... I wouldn't be surprised if my team hasn't got all our stuff.
I mean, isn't there some teams that haven't submitted their stuff to get prizing for MRC and MRI before, from what I've heard? So
in EU console, the season 0 champions for console still haven't even.
That's what it is. Paid. Yeah.
Season 1, beta MRI, beta just got paid out for MRC. Season 0 MRC's not been paid out. Season 1 MRC's not been paid out. No console's been paid out. No PC seems to have been paid out. Marvel Rivals Invitational. Some teams seem to have been paid, but some haven't been. And which makes me, I don't know about you guys, it makes me wonder when they're saying stuff teams are going to be reimbursed. Are we talking about in 2 to 4 business years?
Yeah, we don't know what those numbers are going to be adjusted.
Is it adjusted for inflation in that case? Because it's ridiculous. The timeline on it is. I hope I don't come off as too critical. I love this game. And I think the esports ecosystem is excellent for it, and it needs development and pushing. NetEase is saying oh yeah, don't worry, we'll give you the money back, and yeah, $3 million. When is that going to happen? When are you actually going to get it? Because it's great to say, and yeah, it will happen eventually, but
down the line at some point. Usually what I've seen is 90 to 120 days for top leagues is typically when you see payouts for stuff.
Has it been 6 months since Season 0 MRC? Because the game came out in December, and it's June now. Has it been 6 months?
I think so.
Yeah, it has. My team played in January. I feel like
they've not been paid.
January.
They've not been paid, mate. 6 months, and they haven't. And that was for how big is the MRC prize pool per region? $6,000, $8,000.
I think
it's less. I
think it was 14K. Yeah,
that's 14,500, and they've not paid that out. Okay, this is $3 million.
Scheduling is definitely a concern for that as well, to kind of see what they can shore up and what they can actually give you guys as guarantees on this is when things are going to happen for this stuff. And it's just so much red tape on the top end for a lot of this. Like even the people that are probably like working on the Marvel Rivals Esports team and the tournament team specifically, like they only know so much, and they're getting told things like as they're getting them to give to you guys, and they're going back to them, having more meetings, and then trying to figure out stuff. So it's like they just need more help, and I wish more like games gave more staff to the esports side. I realize that it's not like as big of a business. A lot of people treat it as like marketing specifically in that end, and just keeping people interested in the competitive space for it as like an additional thing as well. But since they have so many plans for the future, at least for this game specifically, I'm hoping that like once Ignite fully goes through its motions and we get it to the end point, that's not like, oh, this blew up and it wasn't run well enough at all, and nobody wants to invest in a future season for it or in a potential for EWC and all this other kind of stuff. I think once these initial hurdles are taken care of, it'll get into the motions. EFG knows what they're doing when it comes to adminning and helping run things on that end. I think there's just so much going on at this time for that specific company and also for NetEase that it is just a terrible time to start try and run something. But they got told that they have to meet these deadlines, they have to get this going, and market this stuff to get things down. This is just me thinking about it from the TO's perspective on it. But yeah, it's just so much time spent on the nitty gritty on figuring out exactly what the specifics can be, and then it's like, okay, you get the go ahead, you have to start doing it now and then go from there. But we could talk all day about our grievances in terms of scheduling, in terms of not knowing the group stages. I was hoping today we'd get some extra info since it was supposed to be tomorrow, but they're probably taking their time. I'm assuming like Monday or Tuesday we'll see an actual announcement for the specific starting dates and schedule of everything of that sort. As far as I'm aware, I got an interview to let people know about for casting stuff, and they haven't even secured all their casters yet for it either. So they're still working on the back end for a lot of stuff on that end too. So we'll see eventually how Marvel Rivals Esports succeeds in Tier 1. Tier 2, though, I got to give a big shout out to an event that I'm helping at cast this weekend. That is VGL Season 2 Finale. Here are the teams that are competing it: Org, ARG, or Org, Arrival 7, 2M Esports, Zero, Tenacity, the Cafe Esports. I think they might have picked up a squad then. Shout out. Silly Cat Gamers, Rank X, Splash Squad, Zomblers, and Virus or White Leopard GG there. Here's the schedule that you can see for the matches. I'll be casting every single live streamed match that we'll be having this weekend for this. So definitely make sure you tune in to TVO Esports on Twitch, or the Valhalla Order is how they go for that. Shout out to Knuten. I know Zero Tenacity, they got the number 1 seed because they were wrecking a lot of these teams on bad ping, which is kind of insane to see. But shout out to the Tier 2 scene, still trying to keep on going. Shout out to everyone who's been watching these streams and participating in the conversation for Marvel Rivals Esports. We're going to go down the line and end off the show today. Went a little bit longer than I was hoping it would, but important conversation to have. So thank you, Jesse, for bearing with us in the background, our producer, making this all a possibility. My question to all of you to end things off: what is your one hope for Marvel Rivals Esports? We'll start with Hachi and go down the line.
My hope, well, I think my hope for Marvel Rivals Esports is obviously that I hope it's gonna be, the next big thing. I think like we all can like say like in terms of like at least shooters, Counter-Strike, Valorant, they're like on the top of the game. So obviously the end goal that I'm hoping is gonna be is something the size of that down the line. So I hope NetEase that they we just need to give them time to cook. There's been a lot of issues and we've been left in the dark a lot of the time during this event. I can speak for myself, but also for Minty. We don't know much either. Our manager hasn't received a lot of information either, so hopefully that improves down the line, so we at least know more in advance. But I just hope the scene continues to grow, and that the game will stay relevant for years to come.
That's what we all want. We want it to be relevant for years to come.
Yeah.
We want there to be more communication, everything of that sort. Alfie, what about you? Similar thoughts, or do you have something else that's on your mind?
Yeah, I completely agree with whatever Hachi said. Like, I just hope it grows. To add on to it, I hope they just don't fumble the bag. They don't, like, obviously they're not handling this perfectly, but at least trying is all that we really care about as players, you know?
True.
And I think it's very important to keep a competitive scene alive. It might seem like a lot of your player base is casual, but who knows? All those casual players might want to go pro, or they get inspired by watching the pro players compete and want to like strive to become the best. You know, ranked has more meaning when you have a pro play. My only hope is that they continue to add more levels of play. So Ignite is perfect for T1. MRC it's okay for T2, but I wouldn't mind them having another 16-team league that is
nice.
T2, and then somehow it spools into like the top 4 from that.
Yes,
Play the bottom
please.
4 of like
Challengers.
MRI, and that's how you like get new teams in, versus this kind of weird like 10-game open bracket where maybe the seeding gets messed up and you just get unlucky, kind of an excess case where they're a really good team, but oh, oopsie daisy, like we got a tough matchup twice in a row for both the weeks. So I think having a structure where you have a T3 scene that's kind of open, like the VGL that's going on and community ran stuff, and then an official league where they can play the open circuit, and then have an established T2 scene where they can challenge the teams that are in T1 on like a quarterly basis throughout the year. That way there is
Awesome.
good seeding going into it. Like you have the top 4 versus the bottom 4, and you know that's the case. Like there shouldn't be any crazy matchups where, oh, the number 13 team is playing the number 16 team, and the number 18 team gets in because they played rank 42 or whatever.
Yep.
And I think so. Some kind of clear structure for tiers is what I hope for in the future.
Seeding randomly off of a few best of 1 games against random opponents. So you can just, I don't know if no one else, I mean, you had, maybe you did this, Alfie. Did your teams like, did you try and like,
Watch when people are queuing so that you can dodge?
Oh, yeah. No, and we, as much coercion as you can, because you're screwing each other over if you run into each
exactly.
other. It's lame as hell.
Literally got to a point where we were DMing each other saying, no, you queue now. Okay, we queue now. You queue after. And like, that's exactly what was happening. And I know that there was like at least like 8 EU teams doing this. And it really sucked for XO got unlucky. If they literally got any team except Shmungus or another top team, like they would have got 10 wins. They would have probably had a better seed, and they would have probably qualified.
Yeah.
It really sucks for them. But instead they got a random best of 1, and they didn't take Shmungus seriously, and they're not bad players, and they won the best of 1 map, and so they got knocked down, and they got knocked out because of it. Their entire time of getting knocked out came down to a random best of 1 game that they couldn't have prepared for against a random opponent that they couldn't have known about, and now they're not allowed to compete in a $3 million tournament. Is that not? I don't want to use naughty language, but that's rubbish. No.
Yeah. No.
Can you imagine how
it needs
heartbreaking
to
that must
be more fair for those top teams that are out there, but also like I do agree, like giving opportunities to other teams that are giving it their all and that have that chance to get that 1-up win against people. Open competition I'm always a big fan of, but as you guys are saying, like have that kind of necessary progression from tier 2 into tier 1. MRC getting invites for winners into the next stage, I think that's great. Make it so that the Ignite people can't participate in that too, so it doesn't kind of muddy that pool as well for the people's potential to get into it is on that end. But there's got to be like a little bit of a better system for that in terms of what we expect to see in the future. And again, this is just a testing for them, right? They said they were going to do 1 ban system, and then they changed their mind on how they're going to do the ban system for Ignite like a week later when they released the rules for the qualifiers and the actual how things are going to go for the advanced ban system. So there's so many different things that I think they're working on, that they're changing, that they're figuring out what they want to do with the game. And they have been pretty receptive to feedback on that on the dev side. So we just got to hope that the tournament team has enough support from the internal NetEase team at Marvel Rivals for them to continue to make things better for the scene. That's what I want to see. I want to see, things improve for the players and the managers and also the fans. So it's like easier to know when this information is coming out. I mean, that's the whole reason I've been doing this podcast and putting all these tweets out for results and all this other kind of stuff, because we don't have like an official channel for Marvel Rivals Esports to even like promote this stuff. I mean, when we saw the Invitationals and MRC, they put out like tweets like later when their broadcast was already happening for the actual event going on. And yeah, they have like a little tab in the game to sign up for Ignite, but it's like behind all the different ads of everything else that's going on. So you need like a button that shows, hey, we're live with the game, so that people that are on the main menu can click it and see Marvel Rivals Esports, the top competition. I think that's always important to see more communication between the players, but also I just hope we get enough support from the general scene of Marvel Rivals to carry this forward into future seasons and years of competition, because that's going to be a big thing to sell to sponsors. That's going to be a big thing metric wise for them is viewership. So, and viewership in general, I feel like for a lot of esports has been on the downswing, especially on Twitch. So very curious on how things are going to go there. But either way, we've had a great podcast. We had a great time here. Thank you everyone who's been in chat, chatting it up the whole time as well. I haven't been able to pay too much attention, but you have all been great. I know you've been having your own spats and everything else, but it's fine. That's what the community is all about. But thank you, Hachi. Thank you, Alfie. Thank you, Minty. Thank you, Just Staying Alive, or Jesse English, our producer in the background. We'll see you on the next episode of Rivals and Rants. It might not be next week. We might take a week break as we just figure out what's going on with Ignite. And after that, we will return with episode 7. We will do actual power rankings because we will know some of the results so far for that first week of group stages. So stay tuned for that. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Remember the dusk, the lights gripping tightly, trapping all those